Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live event tonight. My name is Robert Allen.
And I'm Holly Ehrlich.
And we are Canna Pop-Up. And tonight we are bringing you the first in our $1 Million Napkin series, The Green Shift, the pivot into the budding cannabis industry. And we're excited on so many different levels tonight about doing this. But before we get started, I just hope that everyone out there stays safe and healthy. We're dealing with something in this country, in this world that we've never encountered in this generation. So I'm glad we could kind of bring everyone together, a little bit of a distraction tonight, take our minds off of some of the current events and talk about some other current events, that being the cannabis industry. You can't turn anywhere today and without seeing something about cannabis, the industry, legalization, medicinal uses, breakthroughs, CBD. We've been immersed in the space now for 2 years. We've met some incredible people, some of which are here in the space with us tonight, that will be interacting and sharing with you live. Little bit of housekeeping before we get into things. We want to interact with you. We want your questions. We want to be able to answer them for you. We have a Q&A box. Feel free to utilize that. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can tonight during the live experience. Those that we're not able to get to, we will be able to address down the line at some point. But put in your questions there. We do even have the ability to bring you on live via voice to ask your questions. And if we have some time at the end, we might do that. We'll be asking a couple of poll questions in a few minutes. We want to make this as interactive as possible for you. So do you want me to explain about the $1 Million Napkin concept?
I do.
Okay.
Because we were inspired.
We were inspired, and we're inspired actually by people right here in the room, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But the concept of the $1 Million Napkin is, when you think about it, how many $1 million ideas were sketched out on that proverbial cocktail napkin, whether it be over drinks, whether it be over breakfast, dinner. You always hear the stories, whether it's that amazing logo or that sketch of that corporate structure, right? So that's what we want to bring to you, because what we're seeing happen here, especially in New Jersey. Now, we have viewers tonight from all over the country. But we're talking, our focus really is New Jersey, because that's where we are, and we have legalization being presented to us on the ballot in November. And we want to make sure that we are very prepared as a state, both as citizens, as business owners, as employees, for this brand new industry that will be upon us.
And it's really unlike any industry you've ever worked in. So the laws, the rules, the regulations surrounding cannabis are often confusing and complex. And that is the reason we invited industry professionals and experts for their top advice and stories, so we can at least provide a clearer roadmap to allow you to be more prepared for this exciting journey in the cannabis industry. So, and the other thing that I really feel is important is that the success in the cannabis industry is uniquely tied to the connection and brand that leadership has with the local cannabis community. And everybody we've invited to be part of this tonight.
And we're going to say it quickly. I'm going to bring them on screen here. All of us. This is everyone that we've got lined up for you tonight. We have a couple of people waiting in the wings as well. But we've got Oleg is there. He's actually joining us from the airport. We're going to bring him in just a few minutes. But we are thrilled at the lineup. We do. Yeah. You want to go through quickly?
I do. So we have, Does it matter what order?
No, go right
Good.
around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have Cindy Galvin, who is from, why don't you raise your hands when I announce you, okay? So
Right.
Cindy
That's
Galvin from
Cindy.
BCB Bank, Business Development and Marketing of marijuana-related businesses, CBD specialist, and the Chief Administrative Officer, also from BCB Bank, James Rayborn, raise your hand, who's also joining us tonight. We have Tara Misu Sargenti, the CEO and founder of Blazing Bakery, and also the executive director of the NJCBA. We then have Harry Carpenter, CPA and partner, Citron Cooperman, New Jersey Leader Cannabis Advisory Services Group. We have who works with Harry, Ray Owens, CPA, tax manager at Citron Cooperman. We have Jess Gonzalez with Bressler, Amory and Ross law firm, cannabis and IP attorney. We have Oleg Mariases, who is in the airport, director of education and marketing, Lock and Key Remedies. We have Joel Greengrass with the owner of and with Carry Wellness in Montclair, New Jersey. We have Holly DiLorenzo with Hardenberg Insurance Group, Business Development, Cannabis, Healthcare, and Construction Industries. We have Michael McQueenie with Genova Burns, counsel and co-chair of the Cannabis Practice Group. We've got Jason Thomas with the Grassroots Collaboration Group, who also works in the farm and cannabis industries. And we've got Stu Zakum, Bridge Strategic Communications, Corporate Communications, Marketing Professional in Entertainment, Media, and Cannabis. Thank you all so much for being with us today.
It's going to be a great night. We're fortunate that we have so many amazing relationships that we've developed over these last 2 years, and we really do appreciate everyone for being here this evening. You're really in for a treat. So why don't we get started?
Okay. Well, like Robert said, this is a group of energetic leaders, team players, looking not only to serve their clients, but to develop relationships and truly understand the cannabis landscape. And we really do know every panelist personally, right, Robert?
Absolutely.
Wait, but when do we want to share our journey?
We could do, you know what, why don't we pull up as we do that, why don't we just get a sense of who we have in the room. I'm going to launch this poll. If everyone on here would just take a moment and answer that, that would be a real help to us. So our journey in cannabis, the cannabis industry, began at the beginning of 2018, when
but we're entrepreneurs,
right?
We've been entrepreneurs since we're married 28 years ago this past Saturday.
Right. Was it that?
Yes.
Can I give you an anniversary kiss?
Sure.
We're married to each other, if you haven't figured that out yet.
We live together, we work together, we play together, and best of all,
we're in cannabis together.
We're in cannabis together.
So in December of 2017, I had a hip replacement, which went perfectly, in and out in 24 hours. I had a cane in one hand, I had a bottle of oxycodone in the other. I didn't take one pill. I medicated naturally with the plant. The doctors wanted me to stop taking cannabis before the operation. They were glad to give me pharmaceuticals to calm my nerves. That's not what I wanted to do. So I knew that when we heard from our governor that he was going to really push for legalization of cannabis here in New Jersey recreationally. We already had a medical program that was being revamped. We knew that we wanted to be a part of it. And we decided to use our existing skill set and make the shift into cannabis. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. The people that we're going to talk to are people who have either individually made the shift or working for big companies that have decided to make the shift into cannabis because they know about the potential to not only make money, but more importantly, and that's what really drives us, and I think all the people that are here tonight, is that this plant helps people. It helps people beyond what a lot of us could even imagine. So we'll hear a lot of that tonight as well.
So when starting a cannabis business, two things are crucial. Understanding the unique challenges of this industry and understanding um, who your core consumers are and the unmet need you're filling for them. So we are looking forward to this engaging conversation with stories, with challenges, with successes, with insights to elevate your knowledge in this industry. And we're going to start off with someone who I think is a really great place to start, Tara Misu Sargenti. And the reason I say that is because she actually, back in 2009, yes, 11 years ago, started the first legal edibles company in New Jersey called Blazing Brownies at the time, right, Tara?
Technically at that time it was Mary Jane Mix. That was before my first lawsuit.
Well, see, I learned something. You learn something new every day. So why don't you share your story as the founder of Blazing
Bakery,
Blazing to me, okay, and not only share that, but also to tell us a little bit about the challenges.
for sure. So I took some notes, so if you see me looking off camera, that's why. But I'm on day 5 of quarantine, so I got very reflective. So this is gonna be a little deeper than usual. I have a stock answer that I give for the interview question. Tell us how you started Blazing Bakery. And I'll get to that briefly at the end. But I wanted to talk tonight a bit more how I would talk to a family member or a friend or someone who, I really cared about in the industry, because there are a lot of unique challenges and it's easy to give, stock sound bites, but I kind of wanted to get into it tonight. So it's a lot different right now than it was when I made this shift. In 2009, some of the challenges I faced, I've been escorted out of my bank. I've lost a job over it. I had, ruined many a family dinner, isolated people, been told off. I've had my social media shut down several times. So the great news is making the shift right now is a whole lot easier than when I did it. So, it's, don't be afraid to do it. It's going to be amazing. But I think that's not really relatable. But what I think is relatable is the why. And that's really important, is why you make this shift. I think a lot of people make it for the wrong reason. So here's where I did. So I was 28 years old and my father was diagnosed with cancer. So I moved home. And when you're approached with death, it really, I think, makes you think about your life and your choices. And something I realized is I was wildly unhappy. I was working in design, marketing, great company, upwardly mobile, awesome salary, dream job, everything you could want. And I would go to the bathroom every day at lunch and just cry my eyes out because I wasn't happy. I felt, and maybe this is a little hippie, but I felt the fluorescent lights like sucking my soul out. And I said, am I really going to do this for another 40 years, because money's great, but I mean, you can't buy happiness. So I didn't shift it in a way I would recommend, but it's certainly my personality types. I just quit, I quit. I said, I'm going to spend the last year with my dad before he leaves, and I'm going to figure it out. And that was pretty much it. I gave up the dream job, and started bartending. And then I said, okay, time to figure this out. So I didn't know cannabis right away. I just kind of stumbled along. And one day I sat down and I said, well, I want to be happy. So I made 2 lists. I made a list of things I like, and I made a list of things I'm good at. And on one side of that list was weed. And on another side was, web design marketing. That was my background. So it easily, Twizzlers was on that list. It could have went a different way, but I thought that was a good overlap, cannabis and something online. So that's really how that got started. And then, but it wasn't just a straight path from there, So the first website I did was called Weed Goods, and it was going to be like the Walmart of weed. And I put that up. I was all excited. I printed the business card, stickers, started to promote, and I realized it completely violated paraphernalia law. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work out. So, take 2. And that was Mary Jane Mix, which then I got sued by a little company called Tasty Cake because they own the trademark to Mary Jane from a bread that they bought that competed with Sunbeam, and they wanted to shelf it. So that was my first of a couple lawsuits. So it really, you don't get into this because it's easy. You get into it because it's love it. You love it, you know? So when I moved home, I didn't really have any savings. I was moving from Williamsburg, Brooklyn. It was one of the most expensive neighborhoods in America. And I had a $5,000 credit card. So I said, okay, I'd gone through any savings I had taking care of my dad. And I said, $2,000 I'll put towards the business and $3,000 I'll live off of. And that's how I started Blazing Bakery, completely just with a credit card and, you know, a wing and a prayer. And I mean, it was the best way to do it. I bootstrapped, I just kind of, and from there, I mean, let's see, let's look at notes, you know, so one thing I love this. My family's a big poker family growing up. And there's a phrase, a chip in a chair. So the World Series of Poker, there was a guy who had a $500 chip left, and he went on to win over $500,000, which stays like 1.7. So really all you need in this game, because people come up to me and they say, oh, I don't have money, I don't have funding, I don't have connections. Well, I don't have any of those things. All you need is, are you in the game? Because if you're in the game, that's all that matters, you know, and it's desire is really what matters. So, you know, don't let things like that be an obstacle. And I love the expression that says entrepreneurs are born, not made, you know? So it's about living the way some people aren't willing to, so you can live the rest of your life the way other people can't. So, you know, remember that, you know, when you sacrifice, because it's not an easy industry. Jess, who's on this panel as well, so it's me the other day, cannabis is in dog years, and it feels like that. It's not an easy one, but it's worth it.
Well, since you started so early in the
Yeah.
process, what, like, you know, what's the biggest change? What's the biggest change that you see now from you know, when you started? Because you were all alone, right? In doing that. So what's the biggest change that you see now?
Well, it's not a good one, I'll tell you that. Well, two sides of the coin. The biggest change is that it's the easiest it's ever been, and that is amazing and exciting. You know, we have banking and insurance, as you can see on this panel, which is great. We have acceptance and momentum and popular support. So those changes are wonderful. That's great. We have legislative progress, better laws. On the other side of that coin is we have a green rush that has brought opportunistic people out of the woodwork who are damaging an industry that I have bled for and I keep very close to my heart. So when we look at things like the vape crisis, where did that come from? That came from greed. People who were cutting cartridges with things that were unhealthy and killing people. And when that happens, we create fear, we harm the industry, and we harm people. And that's not why I got into this. Like I was saying, you got in to help people, make the world a better place. So the people who are coming into this as a cash grab, that is the wrong reason. And I think that's why we see so many people not succeeding, the stock market crashing, things like that. It's the people who are just coming in basically just to use people. So those are the two changes. One, it's better than it's ever been. Two, now no one was coming in for money 10 years ago. The only people who were there were the people who truly loved it and believed in it. And I hope we see more of that, because that's the right people that we need, who are gonna, things like the ballot question coming up in the fall.
Right.
That's important. We need people who care. Yeah.
Yeah, we agree wholeheartedly, and we're fortunate that, you know, we're all kind of in that same mode. You know, even if we're just a small part of the industry itself, you know, we're working very hard. So Tara, thanks for sharing that. We'll get back to you for more. If anybody has questions for Tara, please use the Q&A box, and we'll get to those questions just a little bit later. We're going to talk now with Harry and Ray, right?
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell, you know, quickly that the story, because this is really kind of where we had the whole idea for the $1 Million Napkin.
Well, we met Harry and Ray at a CIANJ event, which was about talking about marijuana in the workplace. And they were sponsors of the event, Citron Cooperman. And we went over to them and chatted and said, okay, they're in Livingston. So we met them in Starbucks for a meeting, just to talk about, you know, what we want to do in this space, this being one of them. And Ray started mapping it all out on a Starbucks napkin. And then he sent us information via email, but it was the napkin. And he said, keep this, remember, like, keep this napkin, remember this napkin, and I have to tell you, it was the spark. It was why we decided to name this series the $1 Million Napkin Series. We feel that we really want to inspire others to get their business plans, to explore what's going on in this space. So we thank Ray and Harry for taking the time to talk to us about what we wanted to do in this space. And hence here we are. This was, I think, a year, it may have been almost a year ago.
Yeah.
That happened.
And Citron Cooperman is the perfect example of the shift, right? And we're going to, so Harry, talk to us just about, what was the impetus behind the shift? What was it that everyone there said, hey, this is a good idea. Let's make the shift and
meaning a good idea, meaning forming the Cannabis Advisory Services Practice Division.
Sure. So I'll start. So basically, it all started when some of our clients, existing clients, decided to get into the industry. And, other accounting firms are going through the same processes, but the difference between us and them is that a lot of our competitors were basically turning clients away, long-term existing clients, when they decided to get in this industry. Our firm, and believe it or not, we've been doing it for about 8 years now. So not as long as Tara, but we started about 8 years ago because some of our clients were in the industry or getting into it, and we wanted to support that. And about 3 or 4 years ago, can you hear me, Holly? About 3 or 4 years ago, a couple of my partners decided to formalize the process, and they made a presentation to the CEO of the firm, and the CEO of the firm was extremely supportive of what we were doing, and basically we had a meeting with all the managing partners from the entire firm. There's about 10 different managing partners, and presented the opportunity for this industry, and everybody was not only supportive, but they seemed to be passionate about it, and so exciting for our firm. And then, at the same time that the firm was formalizing this industry practice group, I started working in New Jersey, and then all of a sudden there was a practice group, and I was asked to take the lead in Jersey, and I've got people like Ray on my team and several others in New Jersey, and it has been awesome. The firm has been so supportive, and to this day, most of our competitors still in the accounting industry have decided not to participate and be a part of it, and it's a shame. But we're more than happy to be here. We're very passionate, and that's how we all got started in this industry.
That's great, and there are challenges, right? I mean, it's not so easy. There are things that you need to know going in, right, when you're in the cannabis space. And right now, right, we've had a lot of interaction, talking about CBD. Our in-person events, our pop-up events are centered all around hemp-derived legal CBD, right? But being in the business, even CBD business, brings up a whole host of things that you need to be concerned with from an accounting perspective, right? So talk a little bit about that, what the special challenges are, the differences when you're in the cannabis space when it comes to accounting.
Versus a conventional business.
Right, versus any other business.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the expertise around the technical tax laws surrounding the cannabis industry. And, I'm very, very happy to have Ray Owens on my team. Honestly, there's nobody better than Ray when it comes to this kind of stuff. The tax laws in cannabis have, honestly, and I'll let Ray speak to this a little bit more, but there's not a lot of tax law out there. The industry has not been around forever, like a lot of other industries. And, understanding the impacts, up front of the tax law. And then also, even before you even get to worrying about filing tax returns and the impact from the tax code. It's how do you structure your entity? What's the impact to your investors? What's the, the best way to save tax dollars, be compliant? And then there's some basic things, and around record keeping. We've heard the term 280E. There's certain parts of the business that are subject to the 280E tax law, and there's some that aren't. So, a simple recommendation is proper record keeping and segregation between your businesses, because if you don't do something simple, like have separate, ledgers or separate bank accounts for your different businesses that might be plant touching versus not, you're going to potentially commingle that and get yourself in trouble when you get to file your tax return.
Can Ray explain? Ray, can you explain what 280E is? I mean, we hear that all the time. I don't know if everyone on here understands what 280E is.
Sure. Section 280E of the Internal Revenue Code is the only section that actually pertains to cannabis or illegal drug use in any sense. It's about 77 words long, and it's really the only legislative guidance we have outside of the criminal law, or at least we did for a long time. And it's in those 77 words, it might be getting it wrong, it might be more higher or lower in 70s, but that's not important. What it says is that if you traffic in a Schedule 1 or 2 drug, that for tax purposes, you cannot take any deductions against your gross profit. Well, so basically what you get is income and cost of goods sold and nothing in the way of SG&A expenses. And it becomes very important for a plant touching company, and even up until last year for a CBD touching company, because there was no clear distinction between the two, and the federal government came out and said that CBD still fell on Schedule 1. We recently saw a change with the Farm Bill in 2018 that explicitly took hemp within certain provisions off of Schedule 1, and that was a game changer for the industry. So now what you're going to see is people who formerly had to pay a lot of attention to Schedule 280E or Code Section 280E, going to make the change, and it'll make the industry a lot more profitable and a lot easier to operate for companies who are dealing in CBD or hemp.
It's really, people think that, it's simple, and it really isn't. And I think having the right guidance, from an accounting perspective can really save you. I mean, you could be in serious situation if you don't approach this the right way. Guys, stick around. I know there are going to be some questions for you coming up in a few minutes, but talking about money, right? As hard as it is to believe, right? I can't believe if someone wanted to give you money, would you take it?
Yes. Okay.
Do you know that most banks won't take money from you if you're in the cannabis business?
Yes.
What kind of craziness is that? It's green. It's the same color. So we were lucky enough, actually at the Citron Cooperman event last year,
right,
to meet some of the team at BCB Bank. And, I got to tell you, Bayonne, New Jersey, if you're not from New Jersey, very special place.
For you
and there's a few
us.
people on here tonight that feel the same way about Bayonne.
See how he's smiling there?
If you've never been to Bayonne, you need to make a trip.
Exit
We were at Magic Fountain in Bayonne just a couple of days ago.
Exit 14B, off the park, off the turnpike.
So I want to introduce who we have here, fortunately, with us from BCB Bank. Both Cindy and James have been so gracious enough to join us tonight. Guys, thank you for being here. So talk to us. I don't know which of you want to take this, but talk to us about the decision, right? Because at one point you guys had to sit down and say, okay, are we going to step up here and work with the cannabis industry? So talk to us about that conversation. How did that? What?
So Cindy, you
want to take that?
Excellent.
Yeah.
First of all, BCB has been banking this industry for 6 years now. So we're one of the leaders in the arena at this point. So when we made the decision, when New Jersey made the decision to license medical marijuana facilities, BCB saw an opportunity to, I guess, expand their business and also develop relationships within the business relationships. Since then, we've just really have been working really hard to service the industry and at the same time satisfy all the regulations that are in effect at the moment. So not that it has been challenging, but I think that we've done that very well. And I think that others who have been banking with the customers that we have would tend to agree with us.
It really is about seeing an opportunity to develop relationships and provide service to the communities that we've been providing service to all along. And it's a great, we've been able to create a lot of very good relationships that are both within the industry and also outside of the industry, because most of the folks on this panel aren't working exclusively within the cannabis industry. Their reach goes well beyond that. So it's just it's an excellent opportunity for a bank to both provide a service and expand its business.
So is there something, and granted right now there's not a whole lot of choice, but that will change. So what should someone look for? And I guess this really holds true, right? In any business, right? Because we don't want to stigmatize cannabis any further, right? It's a business just like any other business, right? Although we have to deal with some things. But so thinking about the cannabis industry in particular, but businesses in general, what do you want to look for when you're shopping for a bank? Because you should be shopping for a bank, just like anything else. So what should you look for?
So essentially what you have to look for first is a bank that's willing to actually take you on as a customer. And BCB Bank, and there are a few others that are currently taking on deposits and such. It's also finding out what bank can also offer you other services to support your business. And that does tend to be somewhat challenging because we do rely on other, third-party vendors to support the businesses as well. So I think our biggest challenge is merchant service processing. And I know that we are working toward trying to find a solution to that. So to answer your question, the first is to find a bank that's willing to even consider to bank your business, and to be honest with your bank about what your business is. And BCB Bank encourages people to be honest about their business. And if we just follow the rules that are set in place and do the things that we need to do, our due diligence, and if you're willing to give us and ask all the questions that we're going to ask you, provide us with all the documents that we have, we could do this fairly safely and securely.
Great advice.
Terrific.
Great advice.
I love my BCB pen. Harry, I love your pen too. Okay.
We have a lot of great pens.
My Bayonne peeps. 14A. I hate that I said the wrong exit.
Yeah, we love Bayonne. Thank you guys. Stick around because I'm sure that we're going to have some questions for you. We said it before. We'll say it again. How much we enjoy the community, the people that we've met, and one of the very first people we met was Jessica.
And I think we met her at a CBD yoga event.
We most certainly did. And Jess Gonzalez, we have been fortunate to meet her, to become friends, to watch her career evolve and change and become such a vocal, such a voice.
Well, she's an advocate. She's an advocate. But the thing is, she is so dedicated to the people that have either been, criminalized.
Yeah.
Okay. As well as the businesses that are looking for some strong legal advice when it comes to this plant.
Yeah. And we really admire her, what she stands for. And we just like her. So Jessica, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you've been busy. You've been doing a lot of speaking, so we appreciate you you being with us.
So we want you to share your journey as, you know, from co-founding your boutique business law firm to now where you are at Bressler Amory Ross PC. Share a little bit about your journey in cannabis and as an intellectual property attorney.
Sure. Actually, so I started in the cannabis industry through intellectual property. So I practice what I preach, and when I tell people to use the skills that you currently have and try to pivot into the cannabis industry, and it can really evolve from there. So I started in the cannabis space, I guess, as early as you could have when Murphy was elected. I wanted to use my legal skills for something that I felt was, more important and something that was passionate to me. I've been a consumer of the plant for 12 years. And I never really thought the day would come where an attorney would be able to so freely express that with pride. So I'm very happy that we've gotten to that point. And the more that I looked into cannabis, the more that I saw the impact that the criminalization had on specific demographics, such as minorities in the space. I, being a minority myself, really took that to heart and felt that, well, if there weren't going to be folks, to help service that community, then perhaps I could be that person. So that was really the catalyst for forming my own boutique law firms. It was Latina owned. I did it for a year. My game plan in life was never to own a law firm. I did it out of really pure necessity. I really wanted to be in the cannabis space. I really wanted to help a specific demographic, specifically minorities and women, to try to get into the space. Legal services are very expensive. People generally don't like lawyers. So I wanted to do everything that I could to allow people to have some skin in the game. So after a year, we had about 29 clients, and I'm very proud to say that 90% of them were either women or minority companies. So in my very, small way that I could, I tried to propel these companies forward, and then thankfully I had actually been in conversations with Nick Hamyati, who's the chair of the cannabis practice group at Bressler. He had, he has a very good reputation in the space. The firm was a very good platform to bring my clients on. I was getting a lot of inquiries, either regarding, employment litigation, some environmental concerns, more complex commercial litigation, and I kept having to send certain things out to firms. And so I realized that if I was going to, if my clients were going to evolve, I was going to have to evolve with them. And so Bressler was really the best platform that I saw for my clients, and the firm has been very, very supportive. So I always tell folks, I'm like, for a 28-year-old Latina attorney, that there are less than 2% of us in the country, to co-manage a practice group and lead a group is pretty amazing. So I feel very lucky now to be able to have brought all my clients over to Bressler, help expand the group and just continue with my mission. And then just recently, in December, I was appointed general counsel for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. They are a nonprofit organization that has over 25 chapters in the US. So once again, I needed to go somewhere a little bigger to be able to handle that, because in the end, I really just wanted to go someplace where I could really best service my clients.
That's awesome. I mean, all the involvement that you have in this space, and I think as a woman and minority, and is there anything special that you hope to bring, to the cannabis space at large as an advocate, as an attorney?
Yeah, so, a lot of people, they were like, I see you everywhere, you're on everything. And I always tell them, I don't say no to pretty much any speaking engagement. I will always say yes. And the reason for that doesn't come out of, vanity or wanting to hear myself speak. It's just, I need people from my community to see someone like me up on stage with certain professionals up there so that they can recognize it and say, okay, well, she's young, she's Latina, she came from, very low socioeconomic status, but she's there. And so I've had a lot of people come up to me, tell me that, I've encouraged them to help to join the space. I mean, I've provided them the inspiration and the motivation to really go after what they want after seeing what I did. And so that's what I hope to bring, is I really hope to bring a very different perspective. A lot of times I am the only person of color in the room. A lot of times I am the only woman in the room. And so that our voices need to be heard. And I feel very lucky that a lot of the minority community has entrusted me to be that voice for them.
Well, we thank you. We are grateful. You were on our all-women panel last August in Montclair. You have said yes to us, so we are grateful for that. There is a lot of opportunities for women-owned companies and minorities in this space. You just have to ask the questions with the right people and have these conversations. And the community is going to embrace that. So thank you. Just keep doing the awesome work that you're doing. And thank you for continuing to be part of what we are putting out there, because every part of this journey, we're learning together. And I believe we are stronger together and we're better together. So
For sure.
thank you. So I'm going to go on over to Joel Greengrass, because we also met. He was also at our very first event when the Farm Bill was passed on December 18th, 2018.
Well, you know.
Oh, wait a second, Joel. You know what?
We're gonna
wait, Joel.
We're gonna agree.
You know what? Excuse this only because Oleg. Thank you for being so patient and kind. Oleg's in the airport, so
he's on a layover. He just cleared customs. So we were lucky. Oleg, give me a thumbs up. Are you ready to go? Or yeah, okay, good. All right. So well,
we also was at our first event on December 18th,
right.
2018. Both of these great guys with CBD brands and businesses have been with us since our first in-person event, and including our online event.
Correct. And we were fortunate enough to meet Oleg even before, just at the very fringe of when we even thought about cannabis. We met him at Propellify in Hoboken. And I knew immediately,
which is an innovation festival.
Immediately that I mean, I stood there for half an hour.
No, he was there for so long, and he was learning. Just so you know, okay, he was learning about all of the COAs and the labeling. And
he was telling me, so I didn't know anything until I met Oleg.
One of his oils.
So
and, go ahead, Robert.
So Oleg is a he's a fixture in the industry. I mean, he really is someone who is smart. He cares. He's got an incredible energy about him. He's the kind of guy that, you know, you want to just be close to him. And we have become very close, and we care about this man. He's a little bit crazy. That's kind of what we like about him.
He's good crazy.
Good
you
crazy.
Kidding me? Good crazy.
And
we want him to share.
Joining us from in the midst of his travels in the airport. Oleg, thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the accommodating. My flight yesterday got postponed till today, and the layover. It's basically a lot of airport craziness with the virus and everything. So I appreciate your patience, and I'm actually going to be boarding on the plane in just moments, and might have to do some of the interview from my plane seat. But
so let's get to it.
Okay.
Sure.
Why did you enter the cannabis industry?
Sure.
In 2012 is what the date I have. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. It's actually a funny story. A little background on that is back then I was consuming herbs, THC herbs, and it was I pretty much had a one hitter, and I had a magic flight in a little box with a little battery, a manual vaporizer that I was using, and rushing to the plane, but so I was using that personally, and like sharing that with my friends, and then one night when it was. I basically met with a friend who was apologies. I met with a friend who I became really close friends with since, and he gave me a harsh introduction to THC concentrates. It was in the form of a wax, and he gave me a very, very high. Sorry. He gave me a very high dose, and excuse me. Sorry. Okay, now the plane's not leaving without me, so I'm good. So he gave me a really high dose, and it was basically I was coughing my lungs out for a while until I lost my voice, and then I had to get into fetal position because it was so intense. So that was a really impactful experience for me. But what I got out of that, though, once I got past that experience, was that there was a an opportunity for people to have a vaporizer where they could use concentrates because you need a very small amount of extracts in order to have an impactful effect. And obviously at a lower dosing than what I had for the first time in the initiation. So that inspired me to start developing and designing cannabis vaporizers for concentrates. And I brought on a few partners, and we basically designed that and started the manufacturing process. That was my beginning.
And thank you for accommodating us. We see here on the plane. What's been one or two of the biggest challenges in the process of doing that?
Sure. Really, the biggest thing has been there's been no barrier to entry in the last 3-4 years. So basically, you could just make a phone call to a private labeling company, contract manufacturer, and just come up with some name, and you give them the name. You could design a label for it for like $100. Someone will design it for you, and you have your own CD company, so-called. So then that allowed a lot of entries by people and companies that don't care for quality and so forth. So it really became an oversaturated market filled with unsubstantiated claims, and a lot of harmful toxins are often used in the products. I'm glad Tara referenced that in the beginning of this call. That there's a lot of people who entered this industry just to profiteer and not really care for people's well-being. And in that process, they've introduced a lot of harmful agents into their products. And now you got it goes as far as if you go on Amazon and type in CBD oil, you're gonna get ridiculous first of all claims, but then you get bottles that say there's 260,000 milligrams in a 30 milliliter bottle. So outrageous numbers, and then somehow those products have 4.7 star reviews and thousands of reviews, and they're $30. So that's really where we currently are. And obviously the solution to that is education. Educating people about the importance of lab results. How to read them. To focus on heavy metals is a big problem in the hemp space because of the way it absorbs the toxins from the soil. So that's something people really need to be aware of. And of course, pesticides and just to know your dosing is important. How to take it. So all these variables, consumers need to become more educated about it, and that will help mature, this industry mature.
Oleg, you have really become, kind of the voice of reason through a lot of the challenges that we've had, with the vape crisis, and we had you on, and you were able to explain that, it really is not the process of vaping is what is actually in the cartridges, and it's so important. You mentioned this, the lab reports, the COAs. Not only are those lab reports important, but knowing that the lab reports are legitimate, knowing that the company that you're working with that's showing you those lab reports are reputable, and we are proud to know you and to know how much heart and soul you put into all the products, and this is one of your vape cartridges. They're always at hand, and now especially with everyone's anxiety level ratcheted up to 10,000. CBD can really kind of put you where you need to go, whether it be a vape, whether we have your tincture here. It goes in every day. So we thank you for your dedication to the industry at large. You're quite
my pleasure.
a guy.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Safe travels. Stay healthy. Put the mask on. Don't go near anybody. Listen, I know we're in the cannabis biz. We've gone from the handshake to the hug, but nothing. Please don't do any of that now. And we will talk to you when you get back here in town.
Have a safe flight, Oleg.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye,
Oleg.
Stu.
We love you. We love you.
So I'd like to go right to Joel now. Okay?
Yes. So another guy that we met early on in the process.
The first event, Beth Neidick had recommended that he come to our event.
Yes.
And him and his
Yes.
beautiful bride, Carla,
Yes.
okay, they showcased and exhibited a Canna pop-up. The
That's
first
right.
one.
That's right. And
okay?
they turned us on.
And they turned us on to amazing, awesome, fantastic products.
But it wasn't even so much the products, but Joel, again, the kind of guy that within a couple of minutes, it's like this guy knows his stuff.
But he also has his own personal story, and it is all about health and wellness, self-care and caregiving. And the beautiful thing about the power of CBD as medicine is, give that to me, is there are topicals like this Relieve Pro. There are also topicals like Revive that can, an eye serum and can be used elsewhere. And I've also just finished, Joel, my bottle of Calm. Just letting you know that my tincture, I just finished my Calm. I love CBD. It does reduce stress and anxiety and helps reduce inflammation and pain. So honestly, when we met the people that are behind the brands, so Joel was going to tell you himself. We met him through Theramu, but now he has a new part of his journey.
He's got his great cannabis backdrop.
So Joel, tell us your story and how you got to being even involved in the world of CBD.
I was enjoying just hearing you guys tell my story. I think you're better at it than I am. So I have, I start with, I have multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed 13 and a half years ago. The short version of the story is about 3.5 years ago, I had gone to a doctor's appointment. I have to go every 6 months. I do, MRIs in my spine and my brain. And I had, and they put you through these like awful occupational therapy tests, which I'm convinced are just to make you feel bad about the things that you can't do. And I failed the walking test, which basically meant I couldn't get from point A to point B fast enough. And my doctor told me like, oh, good news, there's a medicine that we can help you with that. And I love my doctor and I understand where she was coming from. And it was that we have something that can help. The challenge is that would have been my 8th prescription drug. And I was also, this is when people will collectively gasp, I was taking 50 Advil per week. Because I would do 2 every 4 hours religiously, because I've got 3 kids, I'm married. My only job every day was to just be able to get out of bed and be the best dad and father that I could be. For whatever reason, the 6th prescription didn't make me do this. The 7th prescription didn't make me do this. But when I hit the 8th one, I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I started doing some research within the MS community, which, anytime you start Googling, anything medical, you never know what crapshoot you're going to enter. But I found out about this thing called CBD, had never heard of it before. Within 24 hours, just completely random, one of those synchronicity moments where you put energy out into the world and it comes back to you. A friend I hadn't spoken to in years calls me, and he's doing branding and working for this family that's got a THC brand in California, and they're looking to do this CBD thing, and he thinks it could help me. And I started trying some of the topical products at first, and these were just in test at this point. And just changed my life. I never started the 8th drug. I worked with my doctor to slowly start coming off of some of the other ones that I was on. Met with the founders. They told me what they were trying to do and that they really wanted to do something in all 50 states, and basically asked me to join. And my background was like, I was the chief people officer at BuzzFeed. I was the EVP of talent and operations at FanDuel. Like I was, this is not my background. And my wife was the one who said to me, listen, if we can help other people and other families, and I always think it's really important that when we talk about humans helping humans, it's not just the person who's afflicted, it's their entire support network, right? You're changing lots of lives at once. And she was like, said, if we can help other people the way this has helped us, then maybe this is what we're meant to do. So I agreed to come on board. Within like 60 days, they were like, all right, we can't keep up. You need to basically just please be the CEO of this brand called Theramu. And Theramu, the difference at the time was, most of the people on this call know that CBD needs to be in a high quality fat for it to be delivered, right? It needs, because cannabinoids are fat soluble, not water soluble. So most products out there are in olive oil, MCT oil, now hemp seed oil you're starting to see. Our products are in emu oil. And we partner with the only FDA approved emu oil, refinery in the U.S. And what it did was it allowed us to create these products that, especially even from a topical standpoint. I mean, emu oil has been used for thousands of years medicinally. It's an incredible neuroprotectant. It's basically got a similar fatty acid profile to like a fish oil. But topically, what's interesting is that our bodies don't recognize it as a foreign substance, right? So our skin is our biggest organ. Its job is to keep stuff out or keep stuff in. It's really got two jobs. It doesn't recognize the emu as a foreign substance, so it can carry the CBD deep into our bodies. So when we're dealing with, things like, arthritis, where it's not the pain that the pain is the symptom, but you're trying to get rid of that inflammation. And we can get into the muscles and the joints. And, basically over the 3.5 years, I knew early on it was going to be the wild, wild west. And, like Tara said, when we started the call, unfortunately, anytime there's a market opportunity, that market gets flooded with what I would call bad players, right? People who are just there to monetize the opportunity. They're not there to truly help people. They don't have a passion for what they're doing. In fact, I met with tons of companies along the way who basically had a 6-month model, right? They wanted me to do private label products for them where we could have made a lot of money. And they wanted me to dumb the products down, for lack of a better word, to make them less expensive. And when I explained that they weren't going to work the same way, literally they would tell me it doesn't matter. In 6 months, we're going to move on to the next thing. So I wouldn't work with anybody like that. Maybe not the best business decision for us, but I really, really believe in that we are sitting on something that can have an unbelievable impact on people's quality of life. So everything that we did was, we did triple lab tested. We pioneered the QR codes on every single product, so people could go to batch tested versions of everything. The product was tested, up front as the pure CBD. We tested again before we manufactured. We tested again after we manufactured, right? You see all these products where you cook the CBD out and people just don't know how to even manufacture with it. And we primarily distributed through wellness professionals. So doctors and pharmacies were our biggest market. And we took that really seriously, because if you're a doctor or a pharmacy and you're recommending any product to a patient, you're basically trusting us with your brand. And that was sacred to us.
So Joel, can
yeah.
you, so first of all, with everyone should know with CBD, we can't claim to prevent, cure, treat, or diagnose anything. Okay.
Yep.
We make no claims, but we also are regular users, and we know that it's anecdotal evidence. It's evidence for us that it works. And I also want to show everyone that on this Revive, there is a QR code right there on the packaging, and packaging and labeling does matter. But you know what, Joel, I would like to tell everybody why you decided, because you have a new venture and endeavor. You've opened up a retail store called Carry Wellness in Montclair, New Jersey, and there are a number of other stores already in Virginia. Can you just tell everybody why you decided to open a retail store?
So absolutely. And so Carry Wellness is basically 1/3 of our model. So I'm the CEO now of a company called Hesiod. And Hesiod has 3 companies. One is Carry Wellness, which is our wellness retail part of the model. One is called Calliope Jane. And Calliope Jane is actually where Carla is involved, Holly and Robert. And Calliope Jane is basically focused on women's health and the use of cannabis and cannabinoid delivery services for women, in educating them in safe spaces, basically like in their homes. And then we have a 3rd branch called Candelsis, which stands for Cannabinoid Delivery Services Systems. And Candelsis is really the about to be the first. It's really going to be the only like tax advantaged research and development arm of any sort of cannabinoid company. So because the idea is, again, we're all about education, and again, to a fault, right? I think science is the underlying part of all of this. Holly, you said rightly so, we can't make any claims, but also to the same way, nobody can come back and take my story away from me, as I went from 8 drugs plus the 50 Advil per week to I only take my primary MS drug now. That's my story, and I'm doing better now than when I started, right? I couldn't stand, like 3.5 years ago, if I stood up for more than 10 minutes, it was either the pain or the fatigue would do me in. And now, I guest lecture all the time on this. I just got back from Boston University, where I was, invited to guest lecture to their PhD pharmacology program. But the idea was I wanted to be able to help more people. And I love Theramu. And by the way, our model, our stores Carry Wellness, Calliope Jane, they carry Theramu. that was part of my negotiation, was that like that had to come with me, because I do believe that they're the best products out there. But I believe through this model that we're going to be able to get to more people, because we've expanded our definition then of cannabinoid wellness and cannabinoid delivery systems. We do a lot on inhalation therapy also, because what people don't understand is whether you're smoking, CBD flower or full blown marijuana, what you smoke out of and how you smoke it can be just as important as what it is that you're smoking. So we do, it's a one-to-one consultative model. Again, I know, Holly, you got to see the store when I was out battling the flu.
I did. It's awesome. Listen, Joel,
yeah.
I got to tell you, okay, first of all, it had been so exciting to watch your journey since we first met. And the thing is, you're doing more, and you're doing more to serve the community. And just like you said at the top, it's humans helping humans. And that's what cannabis is all about. It's all about humanity. So everyone should stay tuned with Joel and Carla and everything that they're doing, because there is so much not only to learn, but to also experience. And I will tell you all that they will also, Joel was part of our online pop-up on January 20th, one of 5 brands that had product spotlights, including the 2 I showed earlier with Revive and the Calm that I finished, and Relieve, which is a topical.
We put it all over our body.
And
you
I will
to check it out.
But if you go to kind of pop up there, anyone who's watching, whether you are, I mean, we're all consumers at the end of the day, and we will have links later and share with you that you can absolutely, go to their website, through our website, to learn more about the products that Joel has incorporated into Carry Wellness. So thank you, Joel, so much. We are going to move along to Michael McQueen, and another really great young man who is counsel and co-chair of the Cannabis Practice Group. He advises businesses, including investors and processors and distributors and retailers and cultivators, on various aspects of the legal cannabis industry. So Mike, why did Genova Burns, the firm you work for, implement a cannabis division?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. And that's one of the funnier things about where we are today, that if you think about just a couple of years ago, a lot of lawyers in the state were candidly afraid to touch it, right? So to touch the issue of cannabis at all, it's federally illegal. Our ethics rules don't permit us to actually advise on it. So knowing that there was a growing demand, one of the things that I did was I went to the managing partner of my firm and I said, hey, look, this is a growing trend. This is something that our clients, if they're not already, they will be interested in. And I'm studying this academically. I have a personal interest in it. That personal interest for me, and one of the things I love whenever I'm talking to folks in the cannabis industry, is hearing kind of their origination story about how they started in this industry. And for me, the way I started in this industry was, over a decade ago, I had an aunt, my godmother, who had ovarian cancer. And over a decade ago, her doctors were more than okay pumping her with all these medicines, all these opioids and everything like that. And the one thing that she found through her journey was that cannabis was something that not only would allow her to manage her symptoms, but to live the life that she wanted to live while she was going through this illness, right? And this was before New York had a medical program. This was before New Jersey had a medical program. So literally everyone in our communal network, once we realized that this person we cared about was going through this struggle, we all did what we could to pitch in, right? So whenever we were going to see her, if someone could bring up a gram of something, an eighth of something, an ounce of something, whatever it was, we became kind of this patchwork of a small army of people who were, what we would call today, transporting drugs across borders, right? But in small amounts to help our family member, the person that we loved, right? So this kind of colored my experience even before I entered into law school. So eventually I go to law school. I started this firm. It's a prominent firm throughout New Jersey. So as things started going on the West Coast, as Colorado legalized, as a lot of these other states on the West Coast started going towards that direction, I approached our managing partner with that. And I said, whatever the need is, I'm going to be an attorney that's there to help the firm. And luckily, over time, that did bear fruit, right? We would have clients who would come to us who would say, I've been approached with this opportunity in Colorado, this opportunity in Oregon, this opportunity in Washington to, invest money to do whatever it is. And it was a great experience because several years ago, being a young attorney, it gave me the opportunity to really be hands-on on, an emerging practice. And, kind of vetting those transactions on the West Coast gave me a great feel as to how these arrangements for investments, for joining companies, for buying out companies, whatever it was, it gave a great hands-on opportunity to learn that, right? Fast forward to 2017 when Governor Murphy was getting elected on this promise. And by that time, we actually already had a pretty sizable and reputable practice for, basically knowing this regulatory structure of things, knowing the business structure of things. And then we've had the last 2.5, 3 years where we've had the two subsequent requests for application rounds on the medical side of things, the helping out in other states. And it's been great because by the time that the opportunities arose here on the East Coast, we were already well versed in it. And it's a nice little catch-22 because whereas New Jersey was, slower than obviously a lot of these Western states coming to the plate on both the medical and adult use side of things, by the time that it came around in New Jersey has become one of the most competitive states in the nation, right? So whereas a couple of years back, we were looking to Colorado, Oregon, and California for rules and understanding how this marketplace works. Now here we are in 2020 and the rest of the nation is looking to us as to how do you manage a program that balances the issues of overproduction, that balances the issues of how to bring it about the right way. And obviously New Jersey politically has had a lot of issues in this regard, but I'll say though that, in the industry nationwide, people look at New Jersey for the competitive nature as to what it takes to succeed in the cannabis industry.
So what is, can you give us a couple examples of like what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've run into so far?
With your clients.
With your clients.
No, your client. What are your clients' challenges?
Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest
Without
challenge.
revealing too much,
Yeah. I mean, look, the biggest challenge that I think everyone on this panel will attest to is not having enough opportunity, right? I mean, I think one of the saddest things that we see in the marketplace today is, and we were talking about this even before we went live, that medical patients have been trying to get their medicine and have been on long lines, have dealt with shortages and the like. And that's been the most frustrating thing from an industry standpoint, right? Because we have so many clients who say, just allow me the opportunity to get into the industry and succeed. But because of politics and everything else, we haven't had as robust application rounds as we've needed, right? And that's on the medical cannabis side of things. On the CBD side of things, it's been somewhat of the cutthroat nature of the evolving aspects of that industry, right? So we get a lot of industry infighting. Today I sent out a cease and desist letter to an adversary who basically, here we have a CBD company out of the northern region in New Jersey who has a dispensary who's doing everything the right way, who's educating their clients, who's working with the local community, who's working with the local police and the like. And there are others in the industry who want to sandbag their success by saying, oh, they're doing something illegal, they're doing this, that, and the other. So, on the CBD side of things, that's been the most frustrating, that there's a lot of people who are rushing towards the marketplace. The biggest problem with the marketplace is a lack of trust, right? From what a lot of the other speakers talked about, which was, purity issues and sourcing issues and the like. Meanwhile, we still have reputable market participants who are, again, being sandbagged by other people who are trying to compete for their market share, right? So the upside is there's a lot of opportunity on the CBD side of things. The downside is there's a lot of infighting for, the share of the almighty dollar.
Yeah. And it's, it is a little bit of the Wild West. And if you don't have a good attorney on your side, you're cooked.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you for sharing that. Stick around. We're going to have some questions that we'll throw at you as we wrap up. So who do we got next, Tom?
Well, Holly's going to introduce Holly. So Holly DiLorenzo is with Hardenberg Insurance Group. She is another
person we met early on.
And well, actually,
you bring her up over and over again.
Actually, we were all the way in South Jersey.
Right.
Okay. And then we just saw her recently with Tara and Harry and Cindy and Mike. And I'm trying to think, I think everyone here almost was at the NJCBA meeting. And it was like one of the first in-person meetings, so we all hadn't seen each other. But anyways, Holly and I reconnected, and we are so grateful she's here with us tonight. So hello, Holly, and why don't you tell everyone why Hardenberg Insurance Group added a cannabis division?
Sure, thank you. So it's how I started in cannabis is pretty similar to how a lot of people on the webinar today got into it. Back in 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and going through the treatment. It was also 2017, we lost, in the hometown where I grew up, we lost 4 people to opioid addiction. I went to 4 funerals that year. So when I was going through the breast cancer and I wound up having a double mastectomy, and it was an 8-hour surgery, I was afraid to go on any of the pain pills. And so I just decided to go a different route, go a natural route. And I took so much CBD that they were going through the process, you need like a real good 2 weeks to heal from everything that, your body just went through. I was back in my doctor's office in 5 days, and she was amazed at how fast I was healing up. And then that's when I finally came clean, and I said, okay, this is what I was taking. It was CBD. It was a high concentration of CBD, and I was taking it twice a day for probably 6 months. And then once I healed up and it was time to go back to work, Murphy got into office, and it was supposed to be legal in the first 100 days. So I pivoted with what I was doing in insurance. I was like, who's going to insure these companies? And I look at it as the industry, like I want to support an industry that I'm passionate about, that I believe in. So I want to support them because this industry, in my opinion, is supporting so many others. So I brought the idea to the president, and it was, the stigma was strong back then in 2017, 2018. So it was a little nerve-wracking. And I just told them, I said, well, who's going to insure this? Can we insure it? And they just said to run with it. I was just lucky enough to be working with a company that was forward thinking. And that's basically what I did. I started the cannabis division within Hardenberg Insurance Group. And I just looked to the West Coast to see how all of those companies were being insured, and just basically getting Hardenberg appointed with the carriers that are willing to write the insurance.
So, obviously we've got lots of businesses that get all different kinds of insurance regularly for their businesses. So what are the special considerations that a cannabis related business needs to consider having when it comes to insurance?
So the thing is the cannabis industry really isn't unlike any other industry, but the problem is because it's so new, there's a lot of insurance carriers that are not willing to look at it yet. None of your standard carriers, as time is moving on, we're getting closer, but we're still not there yet. There are a lot more markets there were than even 2 years ago. But a cannabis company really just needs to be honest and work with a broker, work with the carrier, and not be afraid to really go through the ins and outs of their business, because the more information that we have, the better we are able to explain the risk to an underwriter, and the better pricing and the better coverage that we'll be able to get. So it's really about educating the underwriter, and now there's so many underwriters getting into the space is really opening up on the insurance side. It's becoming easier and easier to get insurance. But when it was funny because at my first event, a cannabis event that I ever went to, I mentioned that I did insurance, and people flocked to me. And that does not happen to insurance people. They're usually running the other way. So I was like, all right, that was a sign. This is where I needed to be, and this is what I want to focus on.
No, it's insurance. It really is an important consideration, and especially in this space, having you know, a company who has that specialty to be able to know the nuances of the cannabis space.
But thank you for sharing your personal story,
Yes.
because I think that, and I thank you all for sharing your personal story. We all become very vulnerable, whether we have loved ones, because a lot of people, you know, they don't know what they don't know. So it's really important for people to share their personal stories and how cannabis has been a part of it, and your big why. You know, many of you mentioned your passion and your why.
Right.
So thank you so much, Holly, for
we
sharing.
appreciate it.
I will tell you, Jason is next, and I'll tell you, we also met Jason at the beginning of our journey, and he even brought his mom to Canna Pop Up.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And
he lives locally, and we become friends. But I will tell you, it's really cool, because when he told us he was going to leave his job and start his own thing,
and doing the shift,
you know, and we thank you. He invited us to be part of his podcast, and you know, so he's got a really cool business.
And now, and
that's
he's
evolving.
taking that, but he's taking that passion of the entrepreneur,
yep,
and taking it to the next level.
But he also has a background, because he has a background in audit, quality, and compliance specialization, especially in the pharmaceutical and cannabis industry. So, Jason, why did you start Grassroots Collaboration Group?
Yes, no, guys, thanks for having me on. So I actually started the Grassroots Collaboration Group as a class project. I was going for my MBA. I worked at Pfizer. I was working at Pfizer, took a 5-year program to wrap up this MBA. Last class was really a service innovation class, and we were tasked with differentiating an existing model, business model, and really redeploying it. A lot of the people I was in the classroom with were trying to reinvent Starbucks and the dollar store and some other stuff I just couldn't really get behind. So being an idea guy, I wanted to create this platform for people to really launch their ideas. So I created the Grassroots Collaboration Group to really establish this roundtable of professionals that, you know, can help people from all angles of life launch their ideas. I launched this back in 2018. And I gave myself a good year to really pivot into the industry, to brand, to network, to attend all the events that we've been talking about all night. Because I thought it would be really important to, you know, have the repertoire with people to make sure I understood what the industry needs, and not just to jump in and tell people what I think they need. I actually even went back to the drawing board and incubated the incubator. I hired someone to help me work through that in a very methodical format. Kind of practice what you preach, if you will. And it revealed a lot in terms of our offerings and the things that we want to put into the business model going forward. As of late, about a couple of weeks ago, I have Ben Yerkison from the Jersey City Tech Group, who's coming on board as a partner. We thought it'd be a really great partnership, just with his tech audience and his entrepreneurial background, and, you know, my, you know, focus on the pharmaceutical space and the cannabis space. It just made a lot of sense. So really excited to have Ben on board. We are in the process of planning for a fall pitch event, coronavirus pending. We might just do it in virtual reality. We're toying around with that idea and how much work that would take. But between now and then, we're building a mentor program and really laying the foundation for what we're hoping to be a fully immersive physical innovation center that we're looking to establish next year. And so we want to kind of lay the foundation for the mentor program, the pitch contest. But ultimately, you know, why I wanted to do this was just to help people. I never had the resources myself. I'm an idea guy. I've got 950 on my phone. 500 are great. 200 are awesome. 10 will make money. So I'm also a realist, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, just helping people get their idea out the door just is really rewarding for me personally. So that's why I decided to really pack up my bags and leave. I left an 18-year career in Pfizer, in big pharma. As Holly mentioned, I was a audit, quality control, risk management, technology professional. And when I left Pfizer, I left with 2 companies in mind, both of which I pitched to Pfizer. And unfortunately, there were conflict of interest. So here I am. But the other, which I will be spinning up in the coming weeks, is a quality compliance company. So, you know, as an entrepreneur, one of my, you know, strongest points of advice to anyone out there looking to pivot into this industry is, you know, differentiate yourself. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Focus on a couple different things and see how the industry plays out. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and, you know, it's not something that you need to set out and just pigeonhole yourself into, you know, one corner of the industry. You can diversify. And especially with the recession and everything else going on, it's just, smart to keep your options open.
Well,
so that was the grassroots. Yeah.
Well, I think everything you're doing is awesome. And it takes a lot of confidence and opportunity, and drive.
Being able to see, having the vision.
To be able to, like you said, it wasn't available for you. And we also understand what it's like to have ideas, Jason, because we also have all those, we're idea people. But, it's interesting because, people say, are there jobs in this space? And yes, there are. So the cannabis industry is set to outpace both healthcare and technology jobs with a projected growth of 22% annually in this field. So there are opportunities, science, research, quality, compliance, and of course also on the medical and health side. So stay tuned because you're going to be with your incubator and all the other things you're doing. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. And when we get to the questions, there are some people asking about that as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
So listen, last but not least, when you go to A to Z, when someone's last name is Zakum, we just save them for the last. But not only do we save them for the last, it's also because if you've got a product or service that needs for the world to know about,
right?
Well, then Stu's your guy. And he owns a business called Bridge Strategic Communications. And he has had has a number of accounts in the cannabis space. So Stu, tell everyone, why'd you get involved in the cannabis industry, coming especially from media and entertainment?
Well, that has a lot to do with it, Holly and Robert. I mean, I was very lucky in my career to work for brands that were cannabis friendly. From the film business, and I can't tell you, I worked on Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams, I worked on Half Baked, to, working at Playboy, where Hef was probably the first person to contribute to Normal because he believes in it, to two stints at Rolling Stone magazine, which were not only a dream to me, but, a place where, as a public relations spokesperson, I could agree with their position. I was supportive of a lot of what they believed in politically and as far as cannabis goes. And when you think about the people that you've had on earlier tonight, we all share a real passion for this plant and to eradicate the stigma that's associated with cannabis. And so initially, when corporate America dismissed me as an older person, a friend of mine in Washington State, Dave Rhines, who I actually worked with at Rolling Stone, launched the Marijuana Business Association, MJBA. And this is before Washington State went legal, because he recognized there was a need to educate. And as a public relations professional, I believe my job is to help educate people and to make sure they have an informed opinion to make a judgment.
So this is an important question.
Because there is a challenge, and if you're in the cannabis space, right, marketing becomes a challenge. So, so it would be nice, right, to be able to maybe get some media coverage.
Whether paid or earned. So, and to let the consumer know about their business, their product, their service. So how do cannabis companies work with the media?
What's your best advice? How do you do that?
I just feel that PR and strategic communications is really important as we change public opinion. We have to eradicate the stigma. I believe using medical stories is a much better tool than saying, well, I bought weed at Harmony and it was like 40% and knocked me on my ass. No, I believe that the medical stories are the best way to change people's opinion. And case in point, I was working for TerraSend, who is a Canadian-based MSO who got a license in Phillipsburg, and they were creating their grow facility in Boonton Township. And Boonton Township sold the property to them. It was a farm, a greenhouse farm, and the surrounding communities had a cow. How could you do this? This is going to destroy our area. What about the kids? What about the water? All this stuff. So I created a public education campaign in concert with TerraSend that started with buying the first legal cannabis ads in New Jersey print media in the Morristown Daily Record and a local weekly in the market that started off with a letter from the owner saying, hey, we're so thrilled to be your neighbors. We know you have a lot of questions. We believe in transparency. Here's how to reach us. Plus, I'm coming to town. We followed it up with a direct mail piece, personalized direct mail piece to all the households in Boonton Township, Boonton, and the other two towns, which I can't remember, as well as Phillipsburg, which is where the dispensary is going to be open, that started with the first question is, what is medical cannabis and why do I care? And so it was a very bold approach, a transparent approach, because the best way to deal with misinformation, as we deal with today and every day with this coronavirus, is by being transparent. And I, once again, I view the role of my function to help change public opinion. And if I can use different sources to do that, then I'm effective in what I'm doing.
Well, Stu, thank you for sharing that perspective. And, it really kind of brings everything full circle because, if you look at everything we discussed tonight, it really is all the components of what's necessary to be in the cannabis industry.
But it's the power of story.
It really is. It really is. So we've got a couple of questions if you guys can hang in with us that I'd like to try and get to. And if anyone else has questions, please go to the Q&A box and ask. But one of the questions, kind of a theme here, was like, how do I know what part of the business I want to be in? Like I know at the beginning.
But that's a very,
bring up the mosaic so everyone's on the screen
That
at
is
once.
a very common question. Like, okay, they go to an event that says cannabis or marijuana, and they're like, okay, and they're there, and then they listen to the program if there is one, a speaker, and then there's networking, and there's people, because it's all a like-minded audience. But what do I want to do?
So are there any suggestions maybe from any of the panel? Joel, do you want to jump in and maybe
Tara raised her
take
hand.
that, Tara?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, it all starts with what are you most passionate about? I think the industry, if you go through like the full vertical integration of it, starting with the stuff has to be grown, right? And the stuff has to be dried and it has to be processed and products need to be made out of it. It needs to be sold, and there's legal and there's accounting and there's communications and so many of those aspects represented just on this call. But at the end of the day, what are you most passionate about? Like if I go back to my story and the moving on from Theramu, at the end of the day, if you're the CEO of a product company, like I would do 4-hour conference calls on like the font on a label. That wasn't exciting to me, right? What I loved is being out in front of people and doing the education and having a lot of the one-on-one. So I think finding the piece that you're most passionate about, that's what's going to get you through the bumps in the road. And despite the fact that we're far ahead of where we were years ago, there's still plenty of bumps in the road in front of us. And I think if you don't have that passion, if you go back to people who are just here because you're trying to monetize it, you're eventually, it's going to be like organ rejection over time. So to me, it's like follow your passion, talk to people to understand all the different components of the business. Because I think from the outside, it probably looks a lot simpler than it is. And not every piece is made for everybody.
Tara,
did you have something you wanted to add?
Wait.
Okay,
Go
sorry.
ahead,
Funny, I've had like 4-day conversations about a font as a graphic designer, and I love it. But people ask me that a lot, and one thing I always say is anything you do in cannabis or in your life before it can be transferred to. And this panel is a great example. We have insurance, legal, accounting, design, everything that people do. Take those skills and transfer them to cannabis. And but you do need the education. So like I teach a course at Land Cape Community College. It's available online. There's courses all over the state, and networking events like this, the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association, we do a monthly networking. We do seminars, all sorts of different education. Anything you want to get involved in, take your skills and then just educate yourself to fill in the holes. And also podcasts. I run one, Trailblazing with Tiramisu. I listen to a ton of podcasts out there, learn from the people who are doing it. New Jersey is a state that's a little bit further behind. The thing we can benefit is the blueprints out there. So just a lot of self-teaching and hard work, but it's worth it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really great advice. I think a lot of people that want to get into the space are trying to think of like a whole new thing for them, right? Well, why not start with the skill set you already have,
which is
what
what
you're
we
doing,
did,
and make that shift. Find a way that you can take what you already have and then do it. Stu, did you want to jump in?
Well, I think what you're saying is perfect. Look at me, okay? So I spent my career, and I worked for some amazing brands in my career. I headed up communications at Columbia Pictures, Universal Pictures, Rolling Stone, Us Weekly. I actually put Us Weekly on the map. And understanding that communication and education plays a really vital role in what we're talking about, especially as we lead up to the election in November. One of my biggest concerns is that our community is not being aggressive enough to try and educate people as to why they should be supporting the ballot initiative. It's unfortunate that legislative thing didn't go through, and I take my hat off to Tara. No one worked harder to create that bill, and we all are a little ashamed that it didn't go through, but she was amazing in that play. But now we're dealing with the reality that we have a ballot initiative that the voters have to be educated upon.
So an interesting question came in, and we've all dealt with this, right? So how do you handle conversations with loved ones, given the stigma of cannabis, when you tell them that you're stepping into the cannabis industry and you're going to be working in cannabis? How do you handle that?
Well, they also wrote criticism. That word says it, the criticisms. Anybody?
Problems they had with family. Holly, did you want to?
Oh, unmute.
Wait, I'll do it. Hang on. Okay, go ahead.
I grew up in a very Irish Catholic household. So I had to come out to my mother, basically, tell her that I was a cannabis patient. And I think she was the toughest one because she grew up with that, it was the devil's lettuce. Like, it was evil. And once I convinced her or, opened her eyes a little bit, and I introduced topicals to her, and then she started feeling relief, then it was like, okay, this isn't such a bad thing. For the longest time, she thought I was only talking about CBD. And then she put me, she asked me, are you talking about the bad one, meaning THC? And I said, yes, this is what I'm talking about. And then she asked me not to bring it up at family events. And then I told her, I'm not going to do that, because that's exactly what I want to tell more and more people about this, because I've had such a good experience at it. So then once she saw that I wasn't backing down and I won her over, then I was okay with it. It was like, okay. It was just, that was the only opinion that really mattered to me, because I knew she would have such a big problem with it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be continuing that conversation.
Tara,
as
I think
well.
wanted to add something. Tara?
Yeah. Just 1 second.
Go ahead, Tara.
Don't care. You got to do what's right in your heart. Be on the right side of history. You can't live your life for other people. That's it.
That's good
That, you
advice.
know what? Excellent advice. Because you know what? We wear these pins proudly. And as Robert will tell you, when people come over, we call it our conversation starter. People lean in. And you know what? We are all the new face of cannabis. Some of us have been in the business a little longer. But I think this is the start of a conversation, because this is making cannabis real. There is opportunities in it for businesses and for potential patients to understand how it can help them.
Exactly. So I want to thank everyone who participated tonight, our panelists. Thank you. We are indebted to you. We are so fortunate to have established relationships with you. And this is just such a rewarding industry to be in. And I encourage people to step up and explore the possibility of cannabis as a viable industry.
And we are Robert's a video producer. We are we are pioneer podcasters, that we launched our podcast in 2005, a whole network of programming, and we are event marketers. So we have taken our strengths and our skill sets and collectively
and we made the shift,
brought it to this space. And we're really proud not only about our educational programming and about our events that are helping more and more people understand the value of products that are really can help you. And we have vetted them all. And we are learning about other businesses that, like you've met tonight, that have incorporated cannabis into their business. So there is incredible strength when we all lock arms.
Exactly.
So,
so thank you all for being a part of this tonight. This was incredibly valuable. Thank you, especially given the stressful time that we're in right now. But we hope that our viewers found this valuable, found this to be a good platform for us to use, because unfortunately, we're going to probably be in this situation for a time to come. So we have shifted again at Canna Pop-Up from our in-person signature events that hopefully many of you have been to and will continue to come to in the future. But for now, we'll be here in the online space. We have something very special planned for 420, an all-day online event that we will be rolling out and give you more information on. We will have more of our virtual pop-ups coming very soon, so that we can continue to give you that kind of pop-up experience in the virtual space for as long as it needs to be. And in addition, for the people who can't get out, if they're suffering from some conditions that cannabis can help. And we want to be sensitive to that. So we want to be able to bring this programming to you.
And we're also on the road to legalization.
Absolutely.
So the thing is you know, Jason chatted with us here a little bit on the side, but we have a lot of talking points that we want to share with you. And we're going to continue that both for the just the residents and consumers to understand more about why cannabis is a good thing for you and your town. And also we're going to dig deeper with the businesses that many of them that are already here, to continue the conversation so you can find your place in this industry.
So, and can I just suggest one thing to you guys?
Go ahead.
As a public service to everybody during this coronavirus time, you know, obviously we're used to in the cannabis world of puff, puff, pass. Well, that is no longer valid. And having, you know, we need to be respectful. We all want to enjoy and consume together, but let's be smart about this, and, you know, just use common sense when you're in a group, so that we don't. The last thing the cannabis industry needs, especially in New Jersey as we go towards the ballot initiative, is any more tar and feathered, because, you know, it has to get passed. So just be smart about it. I was at the Allman Brothers 50th anniversary concert at the Garden last week, which was packed, which won't happen again anytime soon. But I must say, there was nobody passing joints, and it's really wise. So please, you know, pass it on to your friends who consume.
So sharing is caring. So, you know, we hope that you will share this with your friends and family and colleagues, whether you are part of all the attendees. We thank you for taking the time to be part of this. We're using hashtag The Green Shift. Please follow us on @CannaPopUp, and any of our featured guests, please follow them as well. You can reach out. We pretty much we try to attend almost anything and everything.
And we recommend that you do too. If you're interested in being a part of it, you need to show up. So we'll be rolling out more of our online programming for you. So just stay tuned for that. Thank you again to all of our panelists and all of our attendees for coming on tonight. We appreciate it, and we'll see you all very soon.